Welcome to the Mindfully Masculine podcast with Charles and Dan, where we take a conscious, holistic, and direct approach to relationships, mental health, and self-improvement. For additional content, visit our website at mindfullymasculine.com. And to interact with us, our guests, and your fellow listeners, join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook.
Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm well. I'm good.
Good. I'm doing well as well. I got up early this morning, not as early as I used to because of the time change. I'm still trying to get used to that weird. I hate people who are like, well, what's the big deal? You just change your clocks on that Sunday night and, then it's just normal. It's like, no, it's not normal. It won't be normal for 3 or 4 weeks.
So you're a fan of us moving away from the time changes, right? Just stay on the
Yes, stay on daylight. Absolutely.
I agree with that. I agree. There's no reason for it.
Maybe I won't fall back. Maybe when it comes October or whatever, I'll just opt out and just tell everybody my business hours have changed.
Yeah. Did you know states have to get approval from the federal government to do this? Like they can't just, a few states have tried to opt out of it. I think Arizona, right, isn't part of daylight savings time.
Arizona and some part of Indiana, maybe.
Okay.
I think I heard
India,
Arizona.
that's interesting. Yeah.
There's like part of Indiana that doesn't do it, I think.
Yeah.
And Hawaii might not change either.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of having the courage to say no more. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't like switching.
I think we should start a time zone convoy and a daylight savings time convoy. Just drive our cars around the United States protesting daylight savings time.
Yeah, we should.
We could do the podcast on the road. I know you've always been, that's one of your dreams. I'm just trying to make this reality for you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what if we start our convoy and we start getting some news coverage and then World War III breaks out and nobody cares anymore? Like that's what happened with the last convoy.
Pretty much. Yeah. So you're basically saying the Freedom Convoy caused World War III. I see where you're going with that.
I also like how the gas prices spike. That really nothing throws a monkey wrench into an organized convoy like $5 gas.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
yeah. Freezing your bank account.
Right. Well,
yeah, what they did in Canada.
That also makes it difficult to buy gas.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Why don't you throw out something you're thankful for, since you put me on the spot last time?
Yeah. What am I thankful for? I am thankful that I had this weekend to rest, get organized, prepare for the week. Things tend to get out of order quite quickly around my house sometimes, even though it's just me. I feel like I'm able to focus a lot better once I have all of these little things, whether it's just cooking or cleaning and things like that, just everything in its place. Just allows my brain to operate more efficiently. So I'm happy I chose to do that instead of going out. I could have pushed the envelope a little bit. I'm also grateful I was able to both go to the gym and run yesterday. I'm doing a way better challenge, and it was one of the longer runs yesterday. It was 2.5 miles, and I needed to get it done before today. And I was able to do it even in the cold. It was a little chilly down here.
It was.
So I was still out there. I got it done, and I just said, look, I'm just gonna take my time. I didn't really feel like I was doing running, just kind of like bouncing up and down a little bit here and there. That's how slow I was going. But I got it done. So I was thankful for that.
Good for you.
So I'm still in it. Week 3 starts this week. So
very nice. I dumped on it right before it started because I got sick and was just feeling like absolute garbage. And I was like, there's no way I'm taking this on. So I bailed. So good for you for not doing that. Because it's easy to pretend you're sick. It's not like I was going to come over to your house and take your temperature or anything.
What are you thankful for?
Yeah, I was doing some laundry this morning and walking down to the little laundry center at my campground is 4 lots down from me. And I was walking back and taking a look at my camper, and I'm just so thankful that I decided to try this lifestyle. And it may not surprise you to know that I didn't do a ton of planning and analysis and evaluating of whether I was going to enjoy this, whether it was going to be the life for me. I just kind of got the idea that I wanted to do it, and I just did it. And I'm so thankful that it worked out, and that, I don't think I'm not going to be in this camper for the rest of my life, or probably any camper. At some point, I'm likely going to want to
upgrade to a bigger camper. I know we've talked about this already.
I'm likely going to want to, have a family, a wife, maybe some kids, and this life is not going to make sense for me like it does now. But I'm always going to be thankful for the time that I spent living in this little space and giving my focus to what it means to live a more simple, good life. And I keep getting reminders on my Instagram, my Snapchat, and my Google Photos. It was 4 years ago, almost to the week, that I did this, that I ditched the house and got the camper.
Wow. It's been that long already.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that I made that decision. It's really done a lot for me and for the way I see the world and my place in it. And I wouldn't trade it.
Fantastic.
So that's what I'm thankful for. Let's see. There were a couple of things I wanted to discuss that came up while I was editing the episode of our podcast that we released this morning. How are you doing on your late night eating and your breakfasts?
I am doing better. I am following my hunger. So I had a plan from a trainer, and basically it was having me eat like 5 or 6 times a day. And that was just not working for me. And I should just know better. It just doesn't work for me. I mean, having to constantly be making meals, or even just do the prep ahead of time, and then taking the time away from whatever I'm doing to sit down and eat.
Right.
And then coordinate that, because certain medications I take and vitamins I take, you shouldn't have with meals. And then, there's certain meals you should have after if you work out, and then certain meals if you don't. And you know what? It just was getting overly complicated. And so what I've been doing is kind of listen to my hunger and just kind of go with my body. It's like, hey, am I hungry? All right, I'm going to eat. And I'm going to leave it at that and see if I can drop a couple more pounds doing that way. But because of that, I have been actually eating a little bit less. And the other thing that's helped is not lifting every day. So when I was with the trainer, it was 5 days a week of lifting. And sometimes it was 6, depending on the phase that we were going through. And I couldn't control my appetite doing that. So I cut that back down to 3, and then I'm running the other 4 days. And when I'm running, it's a lot easier to eat less. So thank you for checking on me on that, though.
Yeah, no problem. My experience has been similar. When I lift, I want to just eat everything in sight. And when I walk, or when I'm on a running program, it's actually easier for me not to eat. Or easier for me to stick to a diet that I've decided is important to stick to. So I've been snacking. I've been eating, a big breakfast, a moderate dinner, and then during the day, I'm mostly just snacking on things like cottage cheese, or some banana with peanut butter, or apple with peanut butter, a bowl of berries with a little bit of fresh cream, stuff like that during the day. So it feels like my overall consumption is going down a little bit calorie wise, but I'm eating stuff that I like, and I'm feeling, a little hungry during the day, but not famished, not starving, So it's, I'm hoping that will lead to some good results of getting my body a little bit leaner for all of the swimming and biking and running and mountain climbing that I've got planned for the rest of the year.
You mean for the pictures that we need to take for the podcast?
The pictures too.
Yes,
and
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that we got our first quote on that from somebody I've worked with before, and boy, is it expensive. So I'm going to go through a friend of a friend, and who does photography in the Orlando area, and see what she can offer for us to get our podcast pictures taken. And hopefully it'll be a much smaller number than the last one, because we've got equipment to buy, we've got ads to run, we've got a lot of stuff to do. And this podcast is it's currently my favorite money pit. But it's, so it's worth it. I don't regret spending any of this money.
No, absolutely not.
I'm getting a lot of value for my money as far as the time and the product that we're putting out there. But you do take opportunities to slow down the bleeding when you can, right?
Sure.
So the other thing that came up on the episode that came out today was we talked about my experience with the 30-day No More Mr. Nice Guy recovery journal, and boy, have I dropped the ball on that. I'm doing almost nothing with it. I'm keeping my normal journaling practice up, my bullet journaling and my writing in my 5-year journal every day. But yeah, just trying to squeeze in another journal. I've not taken the time and the effort to do it. So sorry for everybody who was looking forward to my book report on that, but it's just not happening right now. I don't have the cycles in me. So, if I decide to pick it back up again, I'll let everybody know, but I don't have it in me right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're human, and I go through those different cycles too, where I'll be either journaling for a while and then I just, other things take priority, or, things, life changes, gets in the way. And then, eventually I'm like, oh, you know what? I could start journaling again. I really could use this type of organization. So that's what's inspired me to start reading the bullet journal. And I'm going to start picking up that practice as soon as we're done with, with this book.
Yeah, it'll be an exciting, challenging exercise for you and I to figure out how we can distill that book and share that book, because the last two we've done, the chapter layout has been very convenient for what it is we're trying to accomplish with this podcast, where I'm not sure that bullet journal is going to be quite that easy to figure out. I don't think a one chapter a week thing's going to work with bullet journal, but it may, but we'll see. And then with the book I just finished, Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which I'm really looking forward to covering at some point. It also has, I listened to the audiobook, and it's got like these little tiny micro chapters that sometimes are just a paragraph long. So that'll be an interesting, I'll have to see if anybody has like made any kind of a workbook for her book. I imagine that the book is most popular among women because it's, about a woman and her life experiences. So I think that's probably the most likely demographic. So that means it's probably a good candidate for book clubs. And if it's a good candidate for book clubs, there may be a chance that some people put together some sort of a workbook or a study course that you and I might be able to grab and sort of base our formatting off that. So I'm real excited to get into that book with you. I think you'll really get a lot out of it too.
Yeah, that you seem to be very excited about it. So
yeah,
definitely. I trust your opinion with most things. I'm definitely going to read it, and it sounds like we're going to do it. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So I don't know if we'll do it after Bullet Journal, and I don't know for sure if Bullet Journal will be our very next book, but like last time, we'll reveal that on the last episode of the podcast season that we're currently on 12 Rules for Life. At the end, we'll say, hey, everybody, thanks for listening to this book, and here's what we're doing next.
Yeah. Hey, just a reminder, we do have an interview coming up on Monday that we're going to need to prep for a little bit. So,
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So,
I need to review your dad's book.
Yeah, I need to review my dad's book too. It's been a while since I've read it. So, yeah.
All right, cool. I will. That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to talking to your dad again, and I think our listeners will enjoy hearing from him again too, and talking about some different topics than what we got into last time.
Yeah, we may have a special guest on in addition to my dad.
Oh, exciting! Him.
So
nice
tease. We'll just leave it at that.
I have talked to Rob about doing another episode, and he's excited about that. So
awesome.
And Renata is also very excited about eclipsing her current record as being our most downloaded podcast episode. That's not good enough for her. She wants to be in competition with herself, which I appreciate.
That's the only person you really can be in competition with, right? Really.
Agreed. All right. You have anything else before we jump into rule number 8?
I do not.
Okay, then let's get to rule 8. Yeah, rule number 8 is tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And this is a little bit shorter than the last one we had, and a little bit less emotional and political, thankfully, because rule 7 was a tough one to get through, both in length and in content, right?
Sure. Yeah, that a lot of touchy subjects.
Yeah. So rule number 8, Jordan Peterson lays out a pretty good case why it's a bad idea to lie to yourself and other people.
Yeah.
And I find Sam Harris has a whole book about lying, and to be completely honest,
is it a how-to?
No, he is.
Oh, okay.
He is
I haven't read it, obviously.
he is as opposed to lying as Jordan Peterson is. But Sam Harris lays his case out without any real religious undertones or anything like that. He approaches it purely from a scientific, materialistic point of view
Ooh.
about why it's still wrong to lie, even if you don't believe there is a God,
Yeah.
and even if you don't believe any religions have it right.
Yeah.
And the way he does it is very well done. So I really like that audiobook. I might I'll share a link for that in our episode notes so that people can check that out. And either way, you got two very smart public intellectuals who see the world in very different ways, both coming together and saying it's not good for you or the world if you're lying to yourself and other people. And I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I took away from this is that it really, by lying, you are arrogantly denying reality.
Right.
Right. And, you may get away with it for a little while at some point, but at what point, there's going to be some point where, you're going to continue to lie to support the other lies. And, you are one person that lives in reality. And when you lie, you deny what reality actually is. And, think about how arrogant must you be to think
yes,
that you can bend reality,
right,
and bend the universe,
arrogance, hubris. It takes a lot of both to feel like you're justified in doing that. And
narcissism.
Yes. And I'm fine with, people deciding not to lie for the very selfish reason of it's an easier life if I tell the truth, because then I don't have to remember what I lied about. That's fine. That's a good level one or first base to start on.
That's where I've been hanging out, first base most of the time. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
But this chapter as well as
purely selfish. I just don't want to exert any more energy than I have to.
And that's okay. I mean, because that beats the alternative of lying, for sport and lying for convenience. But I think this chapter and Sam Harris's book kind of take you around second base, third base, and home plate about here are the other even more important reasons not to be a liar.
Yeah.
And Peterson lays out some examples. He starts with one where he's a psychology student and he's working in, I guess, what you would call an asylum. And one of the patients there, wants to go with him and his fellow students. And he's like, what do I say to tell her that she's not allowed? And he finally settled on just saying, no, we're new psychology students and you're not allowed to come with us. And in this case, it didn't lead to a negative result. But I mean, part of his point is, even if it does in the short term lead to an uncomfortable negative situation, that's still better than the road that you bring yourself down when you start lying to people.
Yeah,
because eventually that road goes to some version of hell, and not a metaphysical hell, like an actual a reality of despair.
And I think at a real rudimentary level, it's basically whether you respect another person or not. So clearly, this was a patient, and it would be very easy for somebody as a psychology student or, somebody who works there to really, and I think he mentions it too in the book, is that he was concerned about, I guess, separating, like basically saying we're a better class of people than you are. Right. And by, and ironically thinking through this, he actually, got by telling her the truth rather than saying, a lie like, oh, we're on our way out of the hospital. Right. Or, we can only take 12 people with us. Right. By doing that, you are actually talking down to that person. Like they can't handle the truth. I hate to use that term, right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But versus going, I respect this other person enough to be able to handle what reality is and handle the truth. And to me, that, right there, you are then, basically keeping the playing field even. And you're saying this is a valuable human being as well. I'm not above, we're not above that, the patients in here in that respect, in terms of, bending reality. And if you do that, then it's almost kind of like you're telling your kids, about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and you're basically making stuff up and you're treating them like they don't know as much as you do, and they might not in certain areas, but I feel like it's, you know, you need to start with at a level of respect when you're talking to somebody.
Right. It goes back to those two words that we just said a moment ago, arrogance and hubris. I mean,
Right.
when you put yourself in a position to say, this other person is not capable of handling the truth the same way I'm capable of it. So, you know, in an effort to not condescend to them, I'm going to tell them something that's not true.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the perfect example of Jack Nicholson on the stand. You can't handle the truth. Right. You know, like I can, you can't.
Yeah. It's the people who think that about others that are the ones that are incapable of handling it. Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Write that down. So I
was going to tattoo it on my ass, but I guess I can write it.
You're going to run out of space. You say that every week.
Have you seen the size of my? All right, we won't go there anyway.
Okay, so this chapter does have a few very short segments that I highlighted it and found would be worth repeating verbatim. One of those is when Peterson sort of recognizes the lying that he's been doing in his life, and he talks about what his motives for that were. And he says, I wanted to win arguments and gain status and impress people and get what I wanted. I was using language to bend and twist the world into delivering what I thought was necessary. And again, arrogance, hubris, and that's the same reason that I do those things.
No more Mr. Nice Guy concept.
Exactly. Right? I mean, yeah. It's very interesting to see the overlap,
the crossover.
When it comes to telling the truth in both the last book and this book. And so yeah, he goes through a couple more difficult situations where it would have seemed on the surface to make the most sense to tell somebody a lie, but he decided to go through and do the hard thing and tell them the truth, and he got better results for doing that. If you've got your book open, can you go to the bottom of page 209?
Sure.
The last paragraph, he talks about calculated ends. And this also gets into what he calls, or what Alfred Adler called life lies. And I just wanted to hit, he lists a whole bunch of reasons that people decide to lie in this last paragraph. And I wanted to just hit some of the ones. I wanted to call myself out a little bit and say, here are the ones that appeal to me the most and give me the most temptation to tell lies.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
To prove that I am or was right, to appear competent, to ratchet myself up the dominance hierarchy, to attract the lion's share of attention. That's a big one. Now, the one that I didn't exactly understand, but it still resonated with me, and I'd like to get your thoughts on what you think this means.
Mm-hmm.
To capitalize on my vulnerability. It's like 5 lines from the bottom, and there's no real context for it. He just kind of spits them all out in a comma delimited list.
So to take advantage of my vulnerability. So yeah. So basically, I would say is, let's say, you maybe make an excuse like, I have, OCD, or I have narcissistic tendencies. So therefore you have to give me a pass on this kind of thing. Right. Or this is why I did it kind of thing. That's the, what I'm saying? Or like leveraging something that, where that really wasn't the case. It's just, you felt like being a jerk, right? Or something like, or you lost control. Right. Or, I mean, for example, here, I've done that. Okay. Here, I'm a type 1 diabetic. In college, I was driving, or right after it was in college, I was speeding down a highway, and a cop pulled me over, and he's like, you're speeding here, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm a diabetic. I have a low blood sugar. And he called me on my line, and he goes, oh, really? He's like, I'll call you an ambulance right now. Wow. Are you having that much of a problem or whatever, And I'm like, no, you don't need to do all that, whatever. And, I got a speeding ticket. But that was the second time I used that excuse. The first time, the cop let me go.
Interesting.
I mean, so you're basically, so I was leveraging capitalizing on my vulnerability of being diabetic. Okay.
So you're advertising a legitimate weakness or challenge that you have in an inauthentic way to either get something you don't deserve or get out of something you do.
That's how I interpret it.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. That makes 100% sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah. And there you go. Perfect example. Yeah. The first time I got pulled over, it was probably a year before that. I had said the same thing, and a cop's like, yeah, it was a local, it was a town cop in all fairness in New Jersey. And the difference between a town cop and a state trooper, it's like SWAT teams. The state troopers in New Jersey are like freaking SWAT team. Like, I mean, like like Green Beret, freaking, yeah, they're hardcore. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
did not put up with it. Yeah. So
that makes sense to me, because I mean, think of just the population density, the number of people, and the ports and the transportation hubs up there. They probably see some really crazy stuff.
State troopers are no joke.
Yeah. And at least so I imagine they've got to be pretty hard up there to deal with some of the stuff that they see on a regular basis.
Yeah. Like, like lying type 1 diabetics from college. Yeah.
And maybe things even worse than that. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but
I don't know. Is there anybody worse than that? I don't know.
There's probably a semi-truck full of human trafficking victims was probably going right past while he had you pulled over on the side of the road, listening to your lies about diabetes. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so here's another line a couple pages later that I wanted to share with you that I think again really ties back to No More Mr. Nice Guy. The top of page 212. If you will not reveal yourself to others, you cannot reveal yourself to yourself. And again, we talked about it the first time I went through No More Mr. Nice Guy. I used that book my way, the way I thought I needed to use it, and not the way that Glover recommends right within the pages of the book. And I didn't use it as an opportunity to reveal myself to safe people. And as a result, I didn't get a lot of the lasting change that I could have if I took it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting. You think that it would be the first step would be to reveal yourself to yourself before you reveal yourself to somebody outside of you. But thinking through that, but yeah, that's not the best way to go about it, because you can easily lie to yourself and be like, it's all right.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna hold you to it. Whereas by telling somebody else, you don't have control over their thoughts. So you better come correct, right? Like you better, you need to, you can't tell yourself any BS, or you can't tell that other person any BS, because they're going to call you on it. You have no control of their thoughts about you. So,
right. And we are
that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, at our core, we are social creatures, and we need to see ourselves reflected back through other people to understand who and what we actually are. And, when you and I are having a heavy conversation about something, I'm able to see myself more clearly by seeing how you react to the things that I'm saying.
Right.
And that's the same with my relationship with Renata and my other close friendships. That's part of what they're for, is getting to know yourself. But you have to be willing to reveal the real you, and not just, trying to set up this pseudo self of who you want the world to think you are.
Yeah.
And that's where the hard part comes in for me. For me, that's the very hard part, is the, being around somebody that I care about, that I'm willing to take the risk with, to say, okay, here's who I really am. And now, are you going to accept that, or are you going to reject that? That's still very difficult for me.
Of course. I think it's difficult for everybody. It's just not just you, man. I mean,
yeah, I accept that. And it's just, how do you, we all deal with that difficulty differently, and we try to defend against that difficulty differently. And for most of my life, I've done it in ways that have not been helpful to myself and other people.
Yeah, I think probably, a lot of that too is, if we've ever revealed part of what we think is ourselves, and we've gotten any type of negative feedback or criticism about them, that, we then remember that stings a lot more than compliments about it. Right. And now, we've got this underlying feeling that's tied to revealing anything about ourselves. And it makes it a lot more difficult to overcome that when you're trying to express that. And then think about this, you're also probably most likely trying to express it to somebody you care a lot about.
Right.
And their opinion means a lot to you.
Exactly.
So now it's even more difficult. It's like, it takes a lot of mental gymnastics to get through that and to be okay with that. But I think for me, it helps understanding that that's the way our brains are physically wired, is to overreact to negative things. And that's to keep us safe. Right. And so knowing that, I can understand that the reality of the situation is going to be different than how I'm interpreting it or how I'm feeling about it, in terms of, nothing is as good or bad as you initially think it is. And my other business partner, Dick, he mentioned that to me. He's about 20 years older than we are, but once he said that, because I was freaking out one time about a customer, and he had said that to me, and I just made me pause for a second. I'm like, you know what? And I like look back at the email trail and I reread everything, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm blowing this way out of proportion. Mountains out of molehills. And now every time I start to feel that initial, what's cool is every time I feel like that initial emotional reaction to anything where I'm like really upset or whatever, that him telling me that kind of comes to my mind, and it gives me just to take a second to breathe and pause and go, okay, let's reread stuff. And then I reread it and I'm like, wow, this is not accurate based on what I'm feeling. I'm like, this person isn't upset at all, actually.
Yeah, it's funny. You that story reminds me of something I heard back when I worked at Symantec doing phone support. Our old friend Phil, business partner Phil, gave me advice one day. I was like, "You've been doing this for a lot longer than I have. How do you handle it when these customers are just on the phone, literally yelling at you about their problem?" And his answer was, "Just turn down the volume, and it'll be like they're talking."
That's awesome. I love it.
It was so good. that stuck with me ever since he told me that. That was like in 2006 or 7. He told me that. And I always thought about, when somebody's yelling at you on the phone, just turn the volume down and it'll feel like they're just talking. Okay, so there's a couple more quotes I want to read, and then I'm happy to go back and go over the parts that are jumping out at you. On page 214, and this is another thing that ties right back to what we discussed in No More Mr. Nice Guy. On 214, Peterson basically offers the definition of an inauthentic person versus an authentic person. And here's how he does it. He says, an inauthentic person continues to perceive and act in ways his own experience has demonstrated false. He does not speak with his own voice. Did what I want happen? No. Then my aim or my methods were wrong. I still have something to learn. That is the voice of authenticity. Did what I want happen? No. Then the world is unfair. People are jealous and too stupid to understand. It is the fault of something or someone else. That is the voice of inauthenticity.
Yeah,
that's some good stuff.
That's pretty much, whether it's it's like a victim mindset, right? Versus taking responsibility mindset. That's the way I look at it.
Yes, 100%. And that's, victim mindset is a phrase I've used a lot too. And that's not to say there are not real victims in the world, people who have been exploited and victimized by the world in general or corrupt individuals. But the only thing you have within your power to control is how you choose to react and look back on what that experience was like for you.
So we probably should rename this the expression to a false victim mindset. Or something along those lines, right? Something cute like that.
But even if you are legitimately a victim of something bad, you can choose how much of that identity you want to own, and like there's a lot of, within my lifetime, I'm pretty sure that the language has changed from women being described as rape victims to rape survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of value in that, and looking at yourself not as a victim, but as a survivor. And that's got to be a really tough situation to change your thinking on that when something that terrible happens to you. But they've kind of decided, women, mental health community, whoever, that it's a healthier way to look at it. And kudos to them for making that leap.
Yeah, no, that's great. It just shows the power of words and,
absolutely,
and the meaning behind them. And you are a, and the same thing goes when, I thought of somebody had one time said, think of doing something as an experiment, and if you go into it with this experiment, when it doesn't work out, your identity is not tied to it. You are less invested in the results. So that way, when it doesn't work out exactly the way you want it, it's less devastating. And so, it just goes to show even before you approach anything, setting your intentions, setting that mindset is really important.
Yeah, and it does. The thing is, though, that does require some pretty heavy lifting to be done beforehand, because you can't go into a new situation, whether it's asking a girl out or going to a job interview. You can't go into that situation with the mindset of, this is an experiment, I'm going to try it this way and see how it works, unless you already believe that no matter what result I get, I'm going to be okay. And so you kind of, I feel like you have to front load it a little bit with that lowering of your anxiety, lowering that scarcity mindset, and going into it thinking, this is going to be okay. I'm going to try something new here, and whether it works or whether it doesn't work, I'll be fine and I'll have another chance.
Yeah.
But if you go into it with that scarcity mindset, it's pretty much impossible to treat it like an experiment, right?
Right. Yeah. And I feel like you're not going to bring your best self forward, because I think you're going to be invested emotionally so much so, and concerned. And I mean, it sounds to me like you're kind of you just described like how to build anxiety into anything that you do, right? Is by being so attached, to the outcome. Yeah, that's definitely. And then, when emotions are running hot, it's hard to have clear thinking, and it's hard to then do your best experiments, if you want to say, right?
Yeah.
To do what you want to do, and try that new thing. It's going to be less effective, because you're going to be battling thoughts and feelings of loss and anxiety and everything else while you're trying to do something new. Oh my God. Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck with doing that correctly.
And that's the thing. If you go into any situation already having an attitude of, oh no, this could be my last chance for fill in the blank. Yeah. Last chance for happiness, last chance for sex, last chance for a good job, last chance for whatever. If you go into that situation with that attitude of, oh no, this might be it, I have to make this one work, or I have no other option, then it's going to turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy where you shoot yourself in the foot almost every time.
Yeah. And you ever think about this? Do you think, those, you coming in with that mindset then gets transmitted to the other people that are involved 100%. In the situation?
Yes, definitely.
And kind of puts pressure on them, because they see how much pressure you're putting on yourself. And now you're affecting other people who are either helping you or part of your, the process. And I think you're making things real difficult if you go into that. Now, again, granted, this is a way I've operated this way, and it's taken me years, and, it wasn't until, I've taken a lot of personal development classes and some courses of strategic coach from Dan Sullivan in terms of, setting intentions and understanding, how much of an effect your mindset has on everything that you do in terms of what you're attracting to you and what you're not.
Yeah, I mean, because I think how much it would shake another person where, you go into them, you go into an interaction with someone else, and all they think is, hey, I'm just, enjoying a fun night out on the town, or I'm about to interview a candidate for this job position that's open. And then somebody walks into that environment with this attitude of, this is a live or die, fight or flight situation, and I've got to handle this just right. And the other person's like, whoa, wait a second. I thought we were just hanging out for an evening. I thought we were just doing a job interview, and you're bringing this energy of, oh my gosh, this has to go perfectly or I'm going to die. I mean, regardless of the fact that if you go into it that way, you're probably going to say the wrong thing. Just think of the body language and the nonverbal communication that you're bringing into it. And so, again, that's where you've got to do this heavy lifting and this hard work beforehand to realize, oh no, this is going to be something for me to go through. It's going to be difficult, but no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something else I wanted to say with the last quote about you can't reveal yourself to yourself if you can't reveal yourself to others. That's why I think it's so important to be able to practice that revelation with either a therapist or a men's group, because the stakes are low and you can feel safe to be completely honest and open with them. And it's not your best friend. It's not your romantic partner. You don't have to worry about that same, the cost of rejection is so low. If you reveal yourself to a therapist that you're paying money to see, or to a group of guys who, don't work with you, don't hang out with you, don't really know you, they're just there to support you, that even if it doesn't go perfectly, big deal, you can survive, right?
Right. Yeah. No, get that practice in.
exactly. Work that muscle of, just being honest about who you are, what you're feeling, and how you're thinking about things. And not only are the odds that you're going to be rejected are extremely low, but even if they do, then find a new therapist, find a new men's group. You'll be fine. No big deal. Where again, trying to reveal something to your best friend or your romantic partner, it's obviously going to be a little bit more stressful because the stakes are higher.
And to kind of bring us back to the rule of the chapter here, which is, don't lie, is if you were even if you were telling the truth and you're coming in with all of this nervous energy and all this anxiety and all this attachment into a situation where, like you said, the other person is like, I thought this was just a casual job interview.
Right.
And you are, wired up. You're now exhibiting signs of somebody who's lying about something, even if you might be telling the truth.
Yes. That's
and now the other person is like, wait a minute, why is this person freaking out about what it should be a pretty laid back, easy kind of situation here? Are they telling me the truth? Now I'm questioning you.
No, that's a great point. And to go a step further than that, imagine being in such a high stressful situation of your own making, and they ask you some unexpected question. And your first thought is, oh, if I lie about this, things will go better. The willpower you have to tell the truth is going to dramatically decrease when you have that high level of anxiety and that body response of being so nervous and so scared. It's going to be hard to stay committed to telling the truth to this person because you're going to be so scared of what could happen.
Yeah, I know. When I've in my IT business years ago, when we were hiring contractors to work with us, I mean, one of the things that I looked for was I would push them and ask them a question I knew they didn't have the answer to. And something super specific about the software that we were using that I knew that I was going to have to train them on. And, that was a test. And I would say, okay, look, if they're going to say, if they're going to make something up and tell me, this, that, or whatever, it's a no-go. But if they actually had the wherewithal to go, I don't know, but I'll look it up and I'll find out after the interview. And very few people actually said that, especially in the IT industry. A lot of times people's worth, in IT is because you know it all. And that's impossible. And that's the ironic thing in most industries, I mean, especially IT, it changes so quick, to say that and again, I don't know, and I'll find out. And then my question was, okay, well, how would you find out? What does that process look like?
Right.
And that's really, it didn't really matter. Most of the rest of the interview didn't mean anything. If they were actually able to say, I don't know, but I'll find out, I'm like, okay, I trust you now.
I don't remember you asking that of me, and that's probably because I was already coming from the company that wrote the software.
Correct. So, yeah. And that was honestly, when we worked together, that was so early on. I didn't have that level of intelligence or that expertise to come up with that question. That didn't happen until a few years after we worked out, and you took advantage of me. So yeah.
Yeah, I sure did. I remember hearing one of my technical trainers when I was going through one of my early Microsoft certification tracks, probably like Windows 2000 or something, like a long time ago, where one of the trainers said, when I got started in technology, by the time I was a year in, I thought, man, I don't know anything. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this job. He said, then at about 5 years, my attitude was, all right, I got to handle this. I can solve pretty much anything that comes up. He said, but then by the time I was in the business for 10 years, I was back to thinking, I don't know anything. And it's interesting how that knowledge and experience curve sort of works, where you start out as a complete novice. Then at some point you think you're smart, you think you know everything. And then a couple big screw ups later, you're humbled again and you're back to thinking, I don't know near as much as I need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least, that happens with some people. Some other people, they start out thinking they know everything and they never back off of that. And it shows them the work that they produce, right?
Correct. Yeah. And also, what kind of interaction are they going to have with other people, with your customers, or, it's not going to be solid. People will pick up on it, whether they know that you're lying or not. For sure, their gut is going to tell them something's not right.
Yeah. And I find in a lot of situations, the easiest way to not lie is to just admit you don't know. And, it's
amazing how we can't, how difficult that is for a lot of us. Right.
But we're in a culture where it's like, I think we talked about it a few episodes ago when I told the heroic story of how I sacrificed my car in front of a shopping cart to save other people.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
save other cars from getting dented up. And it reminded me of something that the podcaster Adam Carolla posted on his social media a while ago, where he said, no successful person that I want to be like doesn't take care of their shopping cart after they're done using it.
Wise words.
And it just reminded me, no successful person that I want to impress is going to think less of me for saying I don't know. All those people that are in positions where I would want them to be impressed by me will value the fact that I say I don't know, instead of just trying to make up some nonsense answer to get by.
Right. And I think that actually goes back to the initial, how did you get that interview, for example, right? So the thing is, if you were honest about everything on your resume and they're looking at it and they ask you something about it, and then you're a lot likely, if you lied about something on your resume, you're a lot less likely to say, I don't know, because they can be like, oh, well, it says right here, you were,
right,
you're an exchange admin for and it's like, you don't know about, email archiving or something.
Right.
So that, and that goes to show what Peterson talks about is one little lie that needs multiple lies to kind of cover that up. And now you're going down a pretty, a path that is actually going to, not long. It's going to have a more of an implication than just, the results are going to be more than one just little lie. It's going to be pretty severe.
Yeah, because I mean, what if it goes the way you think you want it to, and you end up getting this job that you're not qualified for? How much fun is that going to be for you and for the people you work with and your family, when you eventually, have to pay the piper and things catch up with you? I mean, what you think is the end result that you find worth lying for is probably not the result you're going to get, and not the result that you want.
Right. You do a bad job and now you get fired from it, and now you don't have a reference, or if somebody does call them, you can't get another job, or not as easily. I mean, and then, it spirals.
All right, so let me, and that leads me to the last quote that I want to share from this chapter, at least the last one that I've highlighted on page 228. Things fall apart. This is one of the great discoveries of humanity, and we speed the natural deterioration of great things through three things he lists: blindness, inaction, and deceit. So, we're on a bit of a countdown clock to things fall apart. That's what they do. Your health falls apart. Your life's going to fall apart. It's eventually you wait long enough and things go bad. That's what happens. And the thing is, you can either slow that down or you can speed it up. And the things you can do to speed it up are to show blindness, inaction, and deceit. And I buy it 100%.
And how do we get from blindness, inaction, deceit to things falling apart? How do they exactly contribute to things falling apart?
Well, I mean, I think it's tied to what we've been talking about the whole time of you as these hairless apes that we are. And I remember this from editing the podcast that we released today, talking about how, when it comes to taking our anti-rejection medicine or doing something about climate change, it's not possible for us to look 1,000 steps down the road. All we can pretty much see is what the next thing is in front of us. And, it's almost impossible to really feel the consequences of our actions when they get too far into the future. All we can focus on is what we're doing today and what we'd like to do tomorrow. And then, I support, having 5-year, 10-year plans. I mean, that's great, but you gotta be the further out you want to plan, the more flexible you have to be on a daily basis. Right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, and that's the problem. It's like, if you start using these shortcuts and, doing these questionable actions because you find them expedient in the moment, then that's where the blindness and the inaction and the deceit sort of grow exponentially till you find yourself in a position where you don't see a way out.
Yeah. I mean, again, to me, that's denying reality, denying what you are trying to create your own little reality there, right? That isn't what is actually out there. And you're trying to build this, through these lies and deceit, you're building a little bubble within reality. That's the way I look at it. And
Yeah.
and that your little world there does not stand a chance against what reality actually is for the entire rest of the universe.
I mean, I think of it in terms of, we've talked about on this podcast how, I'm 40, maybe 50 pounds lighter than I used to be at my heaviest. I never decided to get fat. I never made that decision. What I decided was, I'm just going to eat this thing I want to eat right now, and I'm not going to go for this walk, or I'm not going to go to the gym. And I just made that decision day in, day out for years. And then I looked in the mirror and I had this big old gut on me, and I couldn't get a good night's sleep. So I didn't make the decision to let things deteriorate through things like blindness, inaction, and deceit. I just decided I'm going to do what feels good in the moment and assume that it'll work out later. And it didn't work out later. And so I had to do way much more work at the end to get in shape than it would have taken me to stay in shape if I'd never gone down that path.
Yeah. And it's hard to really think so far down the road and realize how hard it is to actually, like you just said, to make up for the little decision right now. And a lot of times that just comes with experience, whether it's your own or looking at somebody else doing it. So it's a challenge to, especially when you've got all these physiological things at the time that are saying, to take this action. So maybe maybe your blood sugar was a little bit low and you wanted to, and you hadn't eaten that morning, in the afternoon, you just happen to have access to Snickers bar, or to that pint of Ben and Jerry's. And so now you're not only you're the logical part of your brain, which is responsible for actually being able to look forward and going, hey, what are the consequences down the road for this? That's being shut off because your blood sugar is low and your body needs to survive. So they're like, just eat this thing right now, and then at that point, then it's really difficult to turn that off and go, all right, well, I'm not going to choose this, even though it's very convenient. And that's what I physically need to survive right now.
Right.
And, you really need to go through that a few times until you realize, oh, well, you know what, maybe I should plan my meals in advance. So I'm eating regularly and keep my blood sugar stable. And so I don't have that hangry feeling and go crazy for that. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to feel those, you got to feel those extra 10, 15 or 50 pounds on you before that really resonates with you, till you hear that message in a way that actually makes you take action.
Yeah. I've got a meme right now shared on our Instagram account story that says, brains are made to keep us alive. They're not made to keep us happy. And so in terms of anxiety, your brain's job is not to keep you feeling good. Your brain's job is to keep you alive till tomorrow so that you can then have a chance to stay alive the day after tomorrow. Right. And, things like anxiety and depression and being able to plan for the future, that's not going to be our default setting. Our default setting is, what do I have to do right now in this moment to stay alive? And, a lot of times the answer is going to be shove as many calories in my face as I can find. And I'll be ready for the starvation that is going to come eventually, because again, that's how animals think. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
I think it was either this book or another book. I think it was this book where Peterson referenced how, if you put 20 pounds of raw ground beef in front of a wolf, he's going to eat the whole thing because he doesn't know that he's going to have a meal tomorrow.
Right.
And
that's the difference between humans and other animals.
It should be. Yes. Yeah. The ability to say, oh, wait a second, tomorrow exists and I have to be ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where, sometimes our brains, due to stress, due to lack of sleep, due to whatever we're going through, sometimes that part of our brain that's able to prioritize tomorrow over today just shuts off. And all we're concerned with is, and for me, these are moments of high anxiety when I'm like, okay, what do I need? What can I do right now to feel like I'm going to survive?
Yeah.
And that's not when the best decisions get made.
I want to read a paragraph. Kind of touched on it, but I thought Peterson, obviously, he's much more eloquent than I am. But talking about the whole part of how arrogant it is to lie,
Oh, okay.
On page 229. It says, basically he's talking about how, the first little lie comes and then several little lies come to prop it up. And then basically he says, after that comes the arrogance and sense of superiority that inevitably accompanies the production of successful lies, hypothetically successful lies. And that is one of the greatest dangers. Apparently everyone is fooled. So everyone is stupid except me. Everyone is stupid and fooled by me. So I can get away with whatever I want. Finally, there's the proposition: being itself is susceptible to my manipulations. Thus, it deserves no respect.
Right.
So, yeah, he even says basically you are not respecting existence of life, of what reality is, and
right.
by lying. And that's and when you think of it that way, I mean, I know I'm guilty of saying, of using lies sometimes to make somebody, because I'm concerned I'm going to make them feel bad.
Right.
And I think a lot of us do that. After reading this book,
I know
or this chapter, I should say.
Yeah, I know.
What's your take
going.
on basically being brutally honest, it seems, all the time, which is what he's advocating?
Again, Sam Harris tells a story that I find extremely valuable in his book on lying, where he had a friend who had spent a long time writing a screenplay. And then after it was done, he shares this screenplay with Sam and says, "Hey, I finally finished it. What do you think?" And Sam Harris did not think it was very good.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, here are the things I have problems with. Here's why I think it's got some quality issues. Okay. And he said, this was a very close friend of his. This wasn't just some acquaintance or somebody coming to him for advice because he was famous. He said, from that moment on, my friend trusted that when he needed to hear the absolute truth with no coddling or bias, I was the person he could come to get that. And he said it made their friendship strong. It made their friendship stronger.
I like that.
And I've had similar conversations with my friends before when I've been invited to parties at their house, barbecues, things like that. And I've said, no, thank you. I don't want to go. And I've gotten some pushback. Like, how can you say you just don't want to come to my party? I just invited you to my party. And my response was, I hope that what you take away from this is every time you and I hang out in the future, I'm only hanging out because it's the thing I want to do more than anything else.
That's a great way of phrasing it. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I mean, I think that would be, we need a little how-to manual here and some ideas. Some a guide like this. So, give quite a few, examples and some honest but kind responses. And I feel like that's what I'm missing out of this chapter is Peterson. I agree with you, man, with what you're saying, but how do I do this? How do I, and then if they get upset, how do I deal with that?
Right. And and how can you deal with it in a way where you don't take on this burden and this responsibility of, I did this to them, I made them feel this way, where you can't make anybody feel anyway,
right.
But it does feel easy to take that onto yourself, especially if you have any issues with codependence or
and how do I get over, I mean, what if these are like lifelong friends or whatever, and all of a sudden now or either you're concerned or they actually do stop talking to you, you're not as close, they distance. I mean, how do you think about that? I mean, is it one thing? Is it okay, well, then maybe you weren't as close as you thought you were, and maybe this person wasn't as good of a friend as you thought they were, or is there something that you really should be doing or saying to help them really understand your point of view? Here's
what I would say based on some other books that you and I have read together and found value in. Being honest all the time, no matter the cost or the perceived cost, is a polarizing behavior. And what we found is that polarizing behavior either makes connections you should have stronger, or it breaks down connections you shouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like either side of a magnet, right? It's kind of
Right.
like one really pushes away or one really attracts.
Yeah. So if you've got relationships in your life that can't hold up to the weight of the truth, then you've got to ask yourself if those are relationships that you need to have or should have in your life in the first place, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess you're right. At that point, you're filtering through and you're keeping the quality and letting go of separating the wheat from the chaff, right?
Right. I mean, it's very, yeah, it's very possible that, I mean, people who go through recovery have this all the time where they stop drinking or using drugs, and they find out that these relationships they had with other people that they would drink and use drugs around, they're not the same relationship anymore, because if they weren't built on that substance abuse, then they weren't what they thought they were.
Yeah.
And yeah, in those cases, they have to accept that they're better off without those relationships. And I'm sure that's tough. It's not something I've really experienced firsthand, but I'm sure it can't be easy to go through on either side.
Yeah.
There was one last thing on the last page of this chapter that I wanted to bring up that
Sure.
I find to be a difficult question that I would actually like to ask Jordan Peterson if I was given the opportunity.
Okay.
He says, to tell the truth is to bring the most habitable reality into being. Truth builds edifices that can stand 1,000 years. And I know that Jordan Peterson is a religious man. And when you look at some of the things in the Bible, specifically in the New Testament, specifically the total foundation upon which Christianity is built is the physical bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So either that actually happened in very stark, clear, scientific, physical terms, or somebody told a lie so that the church could be built.
Yeah.
And I would like to talk to him about that and hear his thoughts on that. So if we go see him again and we get to submit some questions, I'm going to ask him that. I want to hear his take on that. So,
yeah,
because I mean, I don't see a way to, when you look back at the intention of the people that spread the story of Jesus' resurrection in 30 AD or whenever it was, either they believed it and saw it themselves, or they decided that telling this story was going to produce results that were worth the cost of the lie. It's got to be one of those two.
Okay.
And
so
all of my conservative Christian friends would say, okay, no problem. It really happened. So they just told the story of what they saw. But is Jordan Peterson on that page? Is he going to say, yes, absolutely, it physically happened? Jesus Christ was dead for 3 days and he came back to life, and that's why we have a church? Or is he going to say that is he going to give me some sort of a metaphysical, meta-truth runaround that justifies why that lie was okay?
Here's the thing:
I don't know.
I don't know that you can prove whether it's a lie or not. I don't think. I mean, can you prove whether he was resurrected or not? There's no.
I suppose all you can prove is that it doesn't happen anymore.
Correct. Right. And so the odds are.
But I don't know that Jordan Peterson is willing to own the statement that it actually happened in physical scientific reality.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would, as a Jungian, he would delve more into the archetypes and what the story means and what the story says about us as humans, blah, 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 and not give a flat out, no, that physically probably didn't happen, but the lie that it did was worth telling. So,
what I mean? Interesting. That's a great question.
I'd like to hear him address it, because it seems like if he's not willing to jump on board the bandwagon and say, yes, it absolutely totally happened. And I'm not saying that it did or didn't happen. I'm just saying that from other things I've heard him say about religion and science, I don't know that he buys that it actually happened in the physical world the way that the authors of the Bible say that it did. Right. So I would like to hear his take on that. So
that's a great question.
I may have to figure out a way to ask him.
I would, yeah. I'd like to be a fly on the wall in that conversation.
Well, I probably won't get the chance to ask him one-on-one. So if he decides to answer my question, it'll be in front of the world to see.
Awesome.
So yeah, that was my kind of parting thought as I was reviewing the text of this chapter before we started this morning.
Great question.
All right. Anything else you'd like to go over? This is one of my favorite chapters. Not just reading it, but actually discussing it with you. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know this is great. I think it raises a lot of questions in my mind and wanting to kind of explore further. Like I talked about, like I want a how-to manual. I need a spin-off off of Rule 8 here. A workbook.
I think you could. I think you would find Sam Harris's his like short book / long essay on the topic valuable, and we could very easily do a one-off episode just on that.
I'd like to do that.
I think we should do that. That would be good.
Yeah.
It's a good book. I either have it on Audible or he made the audio file free or something. So I'll get it in your hands, and
awesome.
You can check it out and see what you think.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dan. I will let you go for now and talk to you again real soon.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for spending time with us on the Mindfully Masculine podcast. If you liked the episode, or you think it would be useful for someone else, please leave us a review and join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook. Remember, fellas, don't act masculine. Be masculine.